Welcome to Sleek Notes E-commerce Boost podcast, your chance to learn from the e-commerce experts so you can boost your business.
In this episode of E-commerce Boost, you learn how marketing expert Daniel Wallock got $1 million in leads with only a few $100 for a client, and how he then drove $425,000 worth of new opportunities for his online business with only one piece of content. What are we waiting for? Let's start the show. So Daniel, earlier this year, you did a fantastic job collecting valuable leads for a client. Could you maybe just start taking us back to when you got hired?
Yeah, of course, I can do that. So really what happened is generally clients might go through a consulting period with me. So they might come in and they might think that they want to do AdWords or Facebook ads or another channel. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's the most optimal channel, especially because when a business is coming for marketing services in the first place, it usually implies that they are having some trouble with acquiring customers. They haven't figured it out, especially if they're a smaller business. So what I did is I offered a upfront, I believe it was 45 days or 60 days, a consulting period, just so I could really get in and understand who their target market was and what was going on, and then assess the problem. Or what I was going to say is what I ended up deciding on is that cold emails for these bigger accounting firms to go after them was the correct method, because it didn't make sense to try to go after a larger deal by serving ads and then getting them through inbound. You really had to go to these larger firms and make the proposal, so it was first touch through email and then begin a relationship building cycle.
Okay, cool. Because I was just about to ask, what was the actual task they gave you? They wanted new customers, or?
Yeah, there's two tasks. One of them was that they were looking to build out a section of the firm where they had relationships with these bigger accounting firms that they could work with, and that's where the cold emailing came in. And then the second task, which was more systematic, and that is finding direct clients, so using Google AdWords or Facebook ads to drive direct accounting clients to them.
And when you got this task, was that an unusual task? Was it a first time for you, maybe?
I hadn't previously worked with many accounting firms, that specific niche, you could say, but I've done a lot of Facebook ads and things of that nature, so it wasn't something new. But I think in each niche, it's important to, and I think that's why people who do choose a niche end up doing really well. So if you have a niche, like I do marketing only for accounting firms, you begin to understand what really works in that niche, and you're able to repeat that process over and over again. So that's just a little bit about having a niche. But it was a new niche for me to work in, but a lot of the things I've done before. They weren't brand new items.
Oh, okay. And what results did you achieve? Yeah,
so in terms of revenue, I can't talk too much about that, but what I can say is I did drive a lot of leads. And so I drove over $1 million in leads for not that much money, a few $100. And when I look at what that means, is leads are really great, but it's also important to have a sales cycle to nurture them. And I don't know if in this certain circumstance, the client had the best sales cycle to nurture these leads. And that's why when we look at marketing and when I talk about it, it's great to be able to drive leads, which I'm pretty good at. But it's also important to set up a systematic process, whether it's a sales team or a strategic guide you send them, so the client, for them to go through and just sort of understand how to go through the leads. Because something I learned going forward is I'm able to drive my clients a lot of leads, but that can be overwhelming. And it sounds like a good problem to have, but it actually can end up being something, at least what I found recently, where it's hard to manage when there's leads, but you don't have exact processes. So that's why, I'd like to talk even about the full funnel, which isn't just lead generation. It's the full, it's actually converting them into revenue as well.
Yeah, it's the entire journey, isn't it?
Exactly. And so it's great that I can drive leads using inbound marketing, content marketing, and then using some of these other channels. But what I've been really looking at now is what does it look like to think about the customer's lifetime journey. And like right now, for example, people who are my past clients, I serve them ads on Twitter, I serve them ads on Facebook, and I just keep the relationships open. You only have to spend a few dollars a day to reach a few, like hundreds of people on these platforms, And if you have a list of clients and relationships you want to keep warm and you have permission to be using their emails and you're in contact with them or retargeting them, it's a great way to just build rapport. And so I'm not serving them like the word ad, you hear the word ad, but I'm serving them photos of me and my dog, like things that are really friendly.
Yeah, getting
ads.
personal.
Exactly, and just continuing to nurture. And I don't know if what's going to result in terms of revenue, or really, I don't know even if that matters, the relationships. And so I think it's really important. I've sort of skewed the interview here from the lead generation aspect to the full funnel, but I think the nurturing process, because lead generation and conversion, everyone just wants conversion immediately.
Yeah.
But this is a long game to nurturing someone.
Maybe we can do like another podcast, an entire new episode on the nurturing part. But I can imagine your client was really pleased with the results.
Yeah, so the client was very happy with the results. He was very surprised that we're able to drive that many leads and the system was working how I planned it to work. Because we talked about, I think, marketing too. So when you look at actual marketing campaigns that are set up, the real cost is in setting everything up. And then once it's set up, the tweaking of the campaign actually doesn't take an extraordinary amount of time. The initial part where I talk to them for a month or two and conceptualize, like right then nothing had happened for a month or two. But they just had to trust, I had to trust that the system we were building would work. And it did work to drive the leads we wanted. And the same way with building a course or these other things.
Daniel just got $1 million in leads for his client, but the magic didn't stop there. He published a case study with amazing results. Here's why he did it and how.
But then I went and I published a case study about the case study, so that's right. And the reason I did that was to sort of just note what it looks like to actually add value in an industry with an article. And I think in content marketing, people produce content, but they don't think about the fact that content, it's a story. So content marketing is synonymous with being a storyteller, but it's also education. So when you write an incredible case study, it shouldn't be about showing like, I'm so good. No, like what it should do is it should educate other people on exactly how you do what you let's say, quote unquote, say you can do.
So the case study really underlying, it showed what amazing work you've done, but it also helped others, didn't it?
Yeah, I'd really like to think so. A lot of people have reached out from the case study. I mean, that's apparent. And it's really great to hear from them and talk to them and engage them. And I'm happy to send more free marketing documents to them because a lot of them are interested or doing something for their own business. So they'll either become a lead pretty much automatically, or, I mean, that is if they're qualified and they go through a sequence, but if not, it's just nice to be able to add value and help other people.
Because, I read about this and then things really took off and you got amazing feedback. So what sort of results did you get from your own case study?
Yeah, so for the case study I did on this, that case study drove about $425,000 worth of new opportunities to my own business.
Wow.
Which is really incredible. And when we look at content marketing, once again, this single piece of content drove more inbound leads to my business than any other piece of content I've ever produced. And I say that, and it's a little dramatic, and that's great. But the reason it did that, and if you break that down, it's educational. It shows me doing something. It shows all the ways. It literally shows the emails, word for word, that I wrote. And then after the case study was published, it was endorsed by the platforms who used it. It's like reply.io, who the case study was done not with them, but I used their platform in the case study. They were able to confirm the data I was showing, for example, which makes it even more wow, they even are going to endorse what he's doing, which is really cool.
That's amazing. Where did you publish your case study to begin with?
So I published the original one in Forbes with a writer named Joe Escobedo, but then reply.io reached out to me and asked if I wanted to publish the case study on their blog with them. And so this is the misconception about the case study with that client, is that Forbes didn't actually drive the majority of leads. The reply.io blog did. And my assessment as to why is that reply.io is far more niche. The people going on there, even if there's way less, already want the service I'm offering.
Yeah, sure. So it's relevant to what you did and what their tool can offer.
That's exactly it. It's a lot more relevant. And while the Forbes article got like 11,000 views or 10,000 views or something, I don't know how many the reply.io got, probably a lot less. But it doesn't necessarily matter, because at the end of the day, the quality viewers, the exact people you want to see it, that article could have got, a few hundred views, but the amount of leads I got was really, really great. So I'm very happy with that.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's amazing. But I'm just wondering, do you think that could work for anyone? Do you think other marketers could do the same thing and get similar results?
I think that everybody, this is a funny phrasing or way to put it, but everybody wants to be SEO, PR, inbound marketing, Facebook ads, Twitter ads. They want to do everything at the same time. Like, they want to be the person who offers all the services. But I think what's ironic, and before I answer the question, is that if you choose one or two services you're really good at and who you are going to work for in that, you can get a lot more customers than if you do anything else. So if you actually become an expert in Facebook ads and go ahead and publish a case study on facebook.com/whatever business or case studies or whatever it is, then you're going to get a lot of leads and it's going to work out. But that requires something that I don't think a lot of other marketers want to do, which is really choosing to become an expert in one or two specific things and then honing a niche in those things.
Okay, but let's say like I'm an e-commerce company, so I don't necessarily work B2B. Can I do something similar just with my product?
Do you mean in terms of publishing a case study?
Yeah, or like say a guide on how to use a tool or a guide on how to use a product.
Yes, but what I'd say, if you want that to work, you would have to use real results of you driving results for your clients or data, because I think it's not compelling enough to just tell people how to do something. You have to show them that what you're talking about is backed up by real data and real expertise. And expertise might look like a screen capture video of you doing that thing, or expertise might look like you showing them live feed, you logging into your, let's say, your Facebook ads account and things like that.
So let's say if I sold products that to sort of improve a healthy lifestyle, then result with someone losing weight or living healthier. Is that what you mean by results?
That's exactly it. So that's a good example. It doesn't have to be. I'm speaking specifically for marketing agencies or industry professionals, but it could work in all these other ways. I mean, that is content marketing, to show a story. And I think the words content marketing, what that really means is pretty much a demonstration of a story. So yeah, it could be with weight loss products. It could be with juice and how the way of living that, these types of people have, or things like that. But it's content that is compelling and has people identifying with it generally and learning from it.
So once I am, as an e-commercer, have done this amazing case study, where should I begin to promote this?
I mean, it really depends on a few things. It depends on who your target audience is, and then if we were to put this in the context of goals, content, targeting, those three things, what are the goals of your campaign? What is the content, so the case study that you've created? Who's that going to appeal to in terms of your goals? And then targeting, where is that going to be placed? So you can either do a guest blog and once again, it just all ties back to those three. Because if you know your targeting and you know your goals, you can figure out where you want to get that case study published and work to get it published there. And you can figure out who it's going to appeal to and other things like that.
What did you do yourself? Did you promote it on Facebook or LinkedIn, and how did you go about it?
Well, I mean, publishing the case study was sort of on accident. And that sounds crazy, but I just got in contact with someone on Forbes on LinkedIn, and they asked me basically if I had any stories. And I gave them the title of a result for a client. And they said, oh, could that be a case study? Could that be something we work in a story? And I said, yes. Or maybe they said, that sounds like a story to me. And then I wrote it. And then we edited it together and went through the whole thing and tore it apart several times.
Wow. So you have to sort of visualize where it's relevant to post a case study.
Exactly. And I think that's what we talked about earlier with the reply.io thing.
Yeah.
I think it really comes down to relevance. And I think that everyone's like, oh, I want all these views on my content, or all these Instagram followers or whatever it might be. And for some purposes, that's great. But at the end of the day, in B2B at least, I know that I only have a handful of deals that are really worth pursuing because they're long-term contracts that are really high value in terms of what I can do for the client, but also high value in terms of just overall sustainability, revenue, etc.
I was thinking, could a forum or Q&A site be a good place to post it?
That's a great place to post it, yeah. And so there's Facebook, there's LinkedIn, there's Reddit, there's Quora, there's all these sites that you can begin engaging with and on, I should say, because there's all these dialogues you can become a part of. And in terms of promotion, just getting in there and helping people, so educating them about what you did in terms of the case study or your product or whatever it might be is a great way to drive leads.
Yeah, because I was just going to ask, next step. Okay, so I've posted this amazing case study on a relevant site. What about actually turning the readers into leads? Do you have a call to action in it, or do you ask them to sign up for something, or how to go about that one?
So yeah, this is an interesting question. I think you don't have to have a call to action, not necessarily, but you can. And what I mean is I think it's something to test. On my Facebook, for example, sometimes I'll post when somebody asks me a question publicly, send an email to, and then I'll put my email. And that will actually generate leads, which is interesting. And that's my personal Facebook profile, by the way. And so it's not to say that I wouldn't ever be salesy, and I don't know if I necessarily believe in asking for the sale. I think if you provide educational content or your product, let's say it's an e-commerce marketer, it's demonstrating that you're really good at what you're talking about. People are going to naturally reach out. I would suggest adding a line as you wish. Like, if you're interested in hiring me or talking more about XYZ, feel free to send me an email at, or feel free to visit blank. I think it's really important to note just though that I think that most people want to be salesy, but this is the internet. We are humans. Go ahead and have a relationship. It's totally fine to post a squirrel gif or, joke around with people as well as adding value.
Great. So it's just sort of letting the results speak for itself, and then hopefully they'll see the value of that as well and buy your product later. Exactly,
and then just engaging them like they're another human, because I think a lot of, I won't just say marketers, but people, it's really marketers. Marketing people engage in this way that's not productive to human relationships, like constantly tweeting about them. And not to say no one cares about them and things like that, but at the end of the day, people want to buy your product and service because it's going to help them, not because it's going to help the marketer, like you, if you will.
So, is Daniel's case study still working miracles for him? Find out how he makes sure the case study keeps converting, and also get Daniel's quick yet effective guide to saving money on Twitter's retargeting system.
It works what I do is I retarget on Twitter ads to it, and then I also just run Twitter ads to it for a few dollars a day. That's almost no money. It's very low. And so what I do is so first off, I'll just give a quick guide on how to do that. Don't use Twitter auto bidding. It'll automatically bid for you, in which case it might cost $1 per click. But you can go in and manually bid it down to 10 cents per click, right? So I go in and I manually bid it down to 10 cents per click, and I target against audiences I believe have the type of people who are interested in the lead generation. And so then I can get 10 or 20 clicks to the article a day for whatever, $1, $2, $3, and I just let it run for a month. And I get I get leads coming in just because that's running, And it's literally a few dollars a day. And I wouldn't say it's tricking the Twitter system. I just think people automatically assume you need to automatic bid, which is not the case.
Sure. So you retarget just to keep the case study alive, really?
I both retarget, but I'm also talking about cold audience as well.
Okay.
So these are against people who I think, so I'll target I might target against the reply.io account, for example. I might do @reply app and then target the audience who's already engaging with them. Because I know if they're interested in reply.io, they're probably going to be interested in somebody who can use it to generate a lot of leads.
Okay, great stuff. So just finally, could you maybe just sum up some of your top tips on creating and promoting a case study that actually converts?
Yeah, in terms of a case study that actually converts, it's important to educate people. I'd say that's the number one thing. If you can educate them with your content and lead them through a sequence or a story of step by step how you did what you presented to do, then people will, I'm not going to say they're going to convert or become your lead, but first off, they're going to walk away feeling educated and excited, and they're going to want to share it and talk about it. And it will also demonstrate that you are the expert in that space. So if anything, it's just most important to educate people. Forget about the sales stuff. That will happen if you naturally help them with great content.
Amazing. Great tips. So Daniel, thank you so much for your time. That was really valuable.
Yes, of course. Thank you for having me on the show.
No problem. All right, folks, that's all from E-commerce Boost this week. If you enjoy this podcast, I'll be absolutely thrilled if you could rate it in whatever app you get your podcast from. And if you're craving more e-commerce tips, simply hit subscribe so you don't miss out on our next episode. Cheers!
This session of E-commerce Boost was produced by Sleeknote. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on tactics and strategies that'll help boost your e-commerce.